All right, this episode of the BlokeBusters podcast is sponsored by Marcus Theaters at Crossroads.
Woo!
Yay! Come in every Tuesday. All movies are $5, and right now to the end of the year, free popcorn. So, you know, if you like free stuff, mainly popcorn at the film. There you go. And also, come in any day of the week and enjoy their Dream Loungers, which are currently in every auditorium. I believe they lost around 1,400 seats or so, but your theater experience is maximized now. These things, like, fully recline. It's like your car seat, just nice electric motors, just... And you just lay back and enjoy the film. It's almost like being at home, except my floors are slightly more sticky at my place than most movie theaters. But, you know, we won't go into my cleanliness issues. So come to Marcus Theaters today, Crossroads location, and look forward to promotions with BlokeBusters and Marcus Theaters in the upcoming future. We have to iron out some details with the management, but we will have giveaways, discounts, and so forth. So look forward to that. Welcome to episode 28 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Paul.
And today is November 24th, I believe.
I think so.
Today we are going to be discussing Ender's Game.
Ender's Game.
A game of Enders.
Yes, indeed. I'm sure most people that heard Ender's Game, the film coming out, and having never read the books were just like, what?
Well, first of all, I would like to apologize for our hiatus, but we are still in business, unlike BlokeBusters.
Yes.
Don't get scared. We are still in business.
Yes.
They are not. Who saw that coming?
I know.
Anyway.
It's almost as if all of these newfangled video on demand and not having to leave your house to watch things.
Well, they tried to get into that Netflix type thing, which I think they might be continuing with on... certain cable networks I heard, but yeah. Brick and mortar. It's a thing of the past.
Yep.
All right, on to Ender.
Well, let's see. Nuts and bolts out of the way. I'm just going to say the director was Gavin Hood, and I don't actually know off the top of my head anything that guy has done.
I know he was, he wrote the screenplay, did he not?
He did the screenplay for this, yeah. And it's one of those things of, before a certain point in my life, you name a director and I'd probably be able to be like, oh, he did this and this. And then recently they seem to, if it's not a major director, all these people are coming out doing the indie films, and then it's kind of my shame of being a film fan, but all these people are like, I have no idea who this guy is. Couldn't tell you.
Well, he had something to do with Wolverine, so...
Oh, really?
X-Men Origins. And not the Wolverine.
Oh, yes.
X-Men Origins Wolverine. Director, actually.
Well, you have a quick flick through of a certain unnamed app there. I would say the budget is $110 million, and the box office, as of 3 days ago, I would say, unfortunately... $77 million, $311,972.
I'm not shocked by that.
I know.
But we'll get into that. My thinking behind that a little later.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure there are several factors involved in that. And just to give you the quick synopsis here, young Ender Wiggin is recruited by the international military to lead the fight against the Formex, a genocidal alien race which nearly annihilated the human race in a previous invasion.
Once provoked.
Yes.
Once provoked.
Yes.
Important distinction, as we'll get into, I think.
Yeah, it's one of a couple of differences between the book and film, and that is going to be one thing. One of the main things here is that, obviously, it was a book first, and then they made it into a film. Brian was one that read the book when he was younger.
I read it as a target demographic. You know, it's great for like 11, 12, 13-year-olds. I believe I read it sometime around when I was 12 or 13.
Right.
And like I was telling Paul, I virtually remember nothing of the book, no specifics other than the big giveaway, and that's about it. And in the like academy style training, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember Harrison Ford's character, if there, you know, the Major's character, you know, anyone else. I is really kind of just has been lost in the ether.
Right.
So.
Well, that's fair enough. And due to this film coming out, I decided to finally read the book. And I am now listening to the audiobook of the second sequel to said book after having also read the parallel book. So you can probably say I enjoyed this series. So it was fun to get into this just before the film came out. And so we're hoping that having the read it but don't really remember it and then recently read it should make this a little more interesting. But to get into the cast then, we have Asa Butterfield as Ender, or Andrew Wiggin, as depending on what you want to call him or who he's talking to. You would know that guy from Hugo.
Oh, yeah. He's a great child actor.
Yeah, doing really well. Harrison Ford as Colonel Graff, and I'm sure he's been in a few things other than Indiana Jones, but obviously most people watching this will think either Indiana Jones or Han Solo as teaching this boy how to do stuff.
Real quickly, yes, before we get into all the other characters, I did say, Harrison Ford's, for me, his character was a mixture of cranky Han Solo and cranky Indiana Jones. Yeah. It was just kind of the go-to.
Yeah, quickly then, branching into that, I was just going to say that having read the book recently and I heard Harrison Ford was in it, and I thought, okay, he's going to be the old guy in it, and then seeing the film and read about Harrison Ford, probably the best person to have played this character, especially how he played it in the film. It was a good fit, I'll say. And then branching off of that, we've got Ben Kingsley as good old Mazer Rackham doing a Maori. I had to say I don't remember in the book him being a Maori guy, but that's probably just me not really getting it because Mazer, I can see that coming from that side. Getting into the slightly lesser known people, you got Abigail Breslin as Valentine, although I'm fairly certain you'll recognize who she was. She was in Little Miss Sunshine.
Of course, yes.
Among others.
And others.
And when I say Valentine, I mean Wiggin. If I don't say the last name...
She was the girl in Signs, too, wasn't she?
Yes,
Signs,
that was her first role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ender, Valentine, and Peter. If I say those names, that Wiggin is the last name of those characters. Haley Steinfeld as Petra Arcanian.
Who was amazing in True Grit.
I was going to say that would be the one. I'm sure you would recognize it.
Absolutely incredible. I think she might have even been nominated. I don't know.
She was.
As Best Supporting or even Best Actress.
She didn't get it, but she was.
She was nominated, which I think she would have been the youngest to win had she won.
I think so.
But I don't know. This is not Oscars trivia.
Yes, we did that before.
This is Oscars guessing. Okay. Who else you got?
Well, the last one that I had written down before we get into the ones that you just were reminding me of, Aramis Knight as Bean. And in this film, his last name is not given, and also in the parallel book, his last name is not given. It's only found out towards the very end of it, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But of course, probably best known, I would say, as its breakout role in Kid with Apple in The Dark Knight Rises.
Who is he?
Kid with Apple.
Kid with Apple.
Yes,
oh.
The one that Cat
nearly beat me out. I was too old for the role. I made a choice to go to the audition with a mango, and they're like, no, you can't be Kid with mango.
I know.
And you're 30.
but
this is discrimination.
I've got a hat, I've got glasses, what more do you want? And... So yes, the other ones that you were mentioning, because I didn't write them down because I didn't recognize the kid. I didn't know the stuff. Yeah. But let's see, we had, and I'm probably going to murder this, Moises Arias as Bonzo.
Bonzo, who's in a wonderful independent film called The Kings of Summer. Has, what's his name, Ron from Parks and Rec in there.
All right,
yeah, Nick Offerman. His name was escaping me for a second. But he's absolutely awesome in it. And all the kids are great in that. But yeah, he's this little weirdo. Not unlike Bonzo, just a little more testosterone driven in this.
Yes. But what else we got?
Who is he?
Jimmy Jax Pinchak as Peter Wiggin.
Yes, as the fighter Wiggin.
Yes. Yes, the Wiggin that didn't quite make it due to being, psychotic.
Yes. And also, sorry for butchering this, because he's a big man. If he would take offense to this, I would be in trouble.
Right.
Nonzo a nosy. Otherwise, most of you will know him from Game of Thrones as Zero Zohan Daxos of Karth.
Yes, of course you can pronounce that one.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've heard it many, many times
Oh,
in the
yes.
show, but I think I got that right. But yeah, he's a big British dude. I want to see more of him. I just think he's very charismatic.
Yeah, I'd say him and the guy who was the major in Pacific Rim. I think those two need to team up.
Yeah. Idra Elbis or whatever.
Yeah,
but,
that would be the one. Yes.
This is a bit morbid and sorry, tasteless, but now that I think he can get some more roles now that Michael Clark Duncan has left a gap. I'm speaking of Nonzo here. Yeah, sorry. Just thinking like, I bet she lost out on more than one role. Too.
Yes, that's probably.
There aren't many 6'8" African American actors that are that full of life, but. On with things that aren't going to get me in trouble.
Not to stereotype, but yes.
No, yes. Not all BlokeBusters have approved this message.
It's definitely a thing of we don't stereotype, but Hollywood definitely
does. Yes, and I just point that out.
Yep.
All right. What did you want to get into first? I know what I want to get into, but you go right ahead.
Well, I was thinking of mentioning that having read the book and then seen the trailer come out, I figured I'd start at the very beginning. The trailer came out. The very first time I saw the trailer, I hadn't read the book.
Okay.
The very first time I saw the trailer, I saw that beam going to the planet, and I thought, okay, that's probably going to be near the end. It seemed a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I read the book, then I saw the trailer again, and I went, why the fuck do every single action trailer film
have to spoil the fucking
end?
Ending? Thank you, Dark Knight Rises. Field blowing up, football field, and that's why I love trailers and hate them at the same time.
It was one of those things of even not knowing anything about the book, seeing that trailer, I was like, okay, that's probably near the end, and then reading the book and realizing that I now want to see this film. I want to see how they've been able to do that, and then they do just show you, and spoiler, the big deciding end all of the war. You see the planet being destroyed. Even with no context, you know exactly what that is. You've just seen the biggest part of that. Anyone that's read the book is going to want to see that. Anyone that hasn't read the book is going to see that and then get that slight, oh no, he'd actually now destroyed this thing. Afterward. But even so, this was the thing that people that have seen the book wanted to see, and so they show it in the trailer. Mm-hmm. I would argue it's one of those things of... in The Avengers, the trailer for that, where you saw the Hulk catching Iron Man, even with no context, you realise, okay, they're in New York, it's at the end, Hulk must catch Iron Man at some point. Oh, he's gone up in the air, he's got to come down again. Will he live?
Well,
yes, he will.
Always prefer teasers over trailers, because teasers get me intrigued, and they don't a little too much, just get you little hints, get you excited. I understand trailers are important for films that need distribution, and need, independent films and stuff.
I have nothing against trailers, at least done somewhat smartly. Make a trailer showing some of the best bits,
and then
but not the end.
And then there are trailers that are just pretty much a condensed version of the film and show you everything you need to show you all the best jokes or all the best action sequences, and then you watch that and go, well, I could have just watched the 3-minute trailer, or 2.5-minute trailer. That was everything I needed. Now you see me. Now I won't see you again.
But I will say the one trailer that I saw that probably, and this is going to be somewhat random, but it's a trailer. It didn't spoil the film, but it completely misrepresented it entirely. Was actually Despicable Me. You saw the trailer, and it was light-hearted, like he's trying to get into the guy's thing, keeps getting hit by different weapons. Like, you saw all the funny bits with the minion. You don't see the film, and the entire film is a very somber tale of these kids wanting a father.
I think of plenty of instances where a film is billed as like a comedy or something, and it's very heavy when you're in there, or vice versa, where it's promoted as like a drama, but it really has more laughs or more action. It's just however the studio decides to sell it. But I think that's a separate podcast. We can probably talk on trailers for an hour.
We should write that down.
It's Trailer Cast.
Alright, so... Well, in that case, that was where I wanted to jump off. What about you?
I want to go into... I was a little disappointed, even though the film was, 2... What was the running time? A little over 2?
Oh, it was pretty much 2 hours, so let's just say that.
Yeah. 1 hour 54.
There you go.
But that being said, I think the character development was very lacking in a lot of places.
A bit too fast paced for you, by any chance?
I don't know. I don't mind dialogue. I love dialogue, and even exposition if it's done cleverly and smartly, and not just like looking to the camera. This is my story, and this is where I'm from, and these are my just dumb it down. We've all seen those dumb exposition scenes where they got to explain to someone what the academy is, or the newbie here. But
I'm gonna have to borrow this from an online guy that I like. He's got a little song that he sings whenever it gets that point. Exposition, rush it out ASAP.
But that being said, I don't know anything about Harrison Ford's backstory.
Right, okay.
Really? I mean, even the major, Viola Davis's character, you really don't know much about other than, like, she's a child psychologist or whatever. But you don't get into their motivations at all. You just get, Harrison Ford's just a cranky asshole that will win this war at all costs and doesn't care if he fucks up these kids for life and whatever. Or if how many people have to die, whatever, as long as we win this war against giant ants.
Well, yeah.
and even, Petra, I thought, they're like, we don't really know a lot about her.
It's definitely one of the things about the book, obviously, is that you can take as much time as you want.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, you don't know about her home life, about,
I will put a bit of a life raft out for the film there and say that Graf, in the book, you really don't know much about his backstory, really. Even by the end, you just come to realize how much he does care for Ender and how much pressure he's under, because he's one of a few people that knows exactly how desperate the situation is. Well, somewhat desperate. It's a bit, you can always argue like, well, we've sent this thing out to them, they've not come to us, or whatever. But whatever.
See, and I read it as in the film, like any slight hints of nurturing or caring for Ender, I think was just a disguise to get Ender to do what he wanted him to do.
Right.
The end justifies the means. Whatever I got to say to this kid to get that killer instinct out with,
Well, it's one of the things that they kind of did it in the film where you saw the odd interaction of just Graf and Anderson or just Graf and someone else. They had it in the book as little things at the beginning of each chapter, conversations which kind of fleshed out what was going on with the management, and those were in the film but not to the extent they were in the book. And it really got to the point of Graf knows exactly what he's doing to Ender and he doesn't like it, but he has to do it. There's no other way of getting around it. So he's doing this thing to this kid, and he realizes that when this war is over, he's probably going to be court-martialed and maybe even killed. But he's the one that has to do it. There's no one else.
See, I still thought. I mean, I will go see Harrison Ford in almost anything if it looks like he was the action star of my childhood.
Right.
Star Wars and Indy and But I just felt he was horribly one-dimensional in this.
Yeah,
I'm not knocking the acting. I'm not. It was what was probably on the page, or But I don't know. When you have someone like him, I think he should have had more to play with, more to do, more emotional ranges. I'm not saying what was there wasn't good, but it was just one dimension of good.
One of those things of doing the best with what you have access to.
And also, I mean, when you have Harrison Ford and Ben Kingsley in a movie together, like, why were they... I mean, they had a couple scenes. I mean, I know he's introduced late in the film.
Very late,
Very late in the film. But, I mean, more scenes with Ben Kingsley and Harrison Ford, please. Like, have them come to blows. I don't care. Like, that would be... Get those two together.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, I mean, I would say, going into a very book versus film discussion here, the film did its best to translate what was on the page. You had several things that were quite different. For instance, Bean was introduced in the book about halfway through. He doesn't even turn up to the station until Ender is already in charge of an army. So the fact that he's already there, when I saw that, I was thinking, okay, this might be a sign that they're going to be going quickly with some of these things. And unfortunately for me, I would have been willing to sit through a longer film to get more of the stuff that was in the book.
See, I do have a question here. As I was hurriedly writing.
Yeah.
I loved the bit with the mind game in there.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have seen more of... See, you'll have to correct me if this took place in the book or not. I would have liked to see more of the intellectual side of the training. More puzzles, other mind games, more problem solving. Than just the physicality. Just the physical nature of the 0G room, which was just mostly featured.
There were... In the book, you got to see...
So was there more in the book of the...
they went to the lessons that you saw. Yeah. They went to the 0G, and they were encouraged to do that. Uh-huh. And then there was the mind game. And a big part of the film was the mind game. And they cut out...
Was it the same thing? Was it 2 cups of poison and the giant...
That was the big thing in the book. He reached that point and realized they couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. Now... In the book, they describe that the mind game starts off with this one thing, you go all the way through to the blah, 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 and then you end up at the giant table. Yeah. Rather than, I'm going to start at the game. Oh, I'm at the giant table. And I understand that given how fast-paced they were doing it, they had to get to that point. In the book... He struggled with it for several weeks.
Oh, see, it's like third attempt. He's like, fuck this, I'm jumping in this asshole's eye.
That's the thing. In the book, it explains he dies every way imaginable. Oh, really? The poison kills him, the poison falls on him and burns him. I'm sure the giant ends up killing him. There's so many things that he gets so fed up that he decides he has to try something else.
Well, see, that's a bit of a cheat because it makes him seem that much more
work.
Clever, more just like the Major said, like, I've never seen anyone do that. That was crazy. Like he gave it 2 tries and then was like, all right, shows how much he can think outside of the box, but. In actuality, it took him weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, it was one of those things he reached a point of desperation that he tapped into the Peter in him, rather than, nope, kill him.
Kill him. All right, this is the only outcome possible.
Yeah, kill him. It's one of those things that it did kind of heighten the fact that, and because they couldn't go into it that much, that Peter is very much part of his life, and he's going to turn into Peter.
It's he embodies the killer side of Peter and the compassionate side of Valentine. Yeah, he's the perfect mix.
Which is where they were trying to go, because he kills this giant straight away, and the idea is that they were supposed to be out of desperation, but this time he just kind of did it, and he doesn't really show any. It's just it's just a game.
It's a game. Now, hopefully, there wasn't a giant somewhere getting killed. I don't know if that was real. Well, he's kind of a jerk, though, making him drink poison. But so I guess I don't feel bad if the giant died.
But in the book, there are other games that the kids play.
I think there was one big scene in the classroom of him showing his kind of command knowledge, but I mean, it seems like that end scene just kind of comes out of nowhere, where he just knows how to command an entire fleet. Yeah. And I would have seen a little more build up, not necessarily an 80s montage, but learning stuff and getting faster.
The problem I had, and again, going back to me saying I wish it had been longer, I'd have been perfectly fine.
I would have been happy with 2:15 or 2:20.
I'd have gone for a 2.5 hour film just so that we could have got more of the battles and seeing him struggle with trying to train, on top of actually later in the film when they're doing the simulations that are in fact them commanding the fleets. There are points where Ender blacks out while commanding them, and then Petra blacks out and comes to while being pulled away, just sobbing and saying over and over again, just tell him I'm sorry, because they're so drained by all this, and you don't get any of that towards the end really. And then I wrote down, because it was just how I felt when I was leaving, the film is too fast paced for the full narrative to be effective, and there's one line in it when it's the last battle before he ends up going back to Earth and then off to command school. And there's a line where he's saying, okay, we're going to do a formation, and they say, we've never done a formation before. If you're following the narrative of the film, this is their second fight. So, of course, they've never done a formation before. It's their second fight. In the book, it's a fight that has come after one fight, 2 days later, one fight, next day, fight. a week of fights one day after another. Then
refresh my memory for the film. Are you supposed to infer that there have been other fights in between this band, or do they say it is their second fight?
No, you're supposed to infer that there have been more.
Okay.
Because they don't say it's been our second. They don't say any of that, and it's clear that time is running out.
Yeah.
But it is very much, there's a fight, there's a little bit of the dialogue, there's the attack, which we'll get into in a second as well, because that's another key book point that they kind of glossed over in the film. And then they're given this slip of, okay, your fight was 20 minutes ago, get down there now, and he's reached the end of his tether. And it really is at the point of, okay, you can see how he's reached the end of his tether just because he's been screwed around so much at this point that he's finally done. But you've only seen that with him. You don't see it with them screwing with his army, with them training and being forced to do all of this, like no sleep at this point. You just see fight, like, they've won this, they did really well, and now they're changing the rules of the game because of that. Then stuff happens outside the war room. Then it's the last fight. I'm sorry. I would want... I think even normal moviegoers would be fine with seeing one more team battle. Like, maybe even one of the ones where the other side got close to winning because they're being worn down.
Yeah.
And then see this one where they do the formation and finally win by breaking the rules and that being it. Again, this is coming from someone that read the book 2 months before seeing the film.
And, I briefly wanted to give my theory on why it hasn't done better. I think it's meant for... it's a PG-13 film.
Yep.
I think it's meant for that younger audience, as is the book.
Yeah.
The problem is, the younger audience has no awareness of this as a book. It's not a beloved... ancient story, not ancient, I'm using the wrong word, but an old story like Lord of the Rings where, that I think that gets passed on to, like, if you're a big reader, maybe you pass that on to your kids. You read that stuff. This is a niche novel. It's science fiction, which isn't a huge area. You either know it or you don't, and those people are going to go see the film and then bitch about it, how it's not like the movie, But so I think that it really had to just kind of work as an action piece on its own. Yeah. And like I said, it's just, it was, like I said, meant for like a 14-year-old that has seen everything and has an iPhone in his pocket and an iPad and, can see any movie he wants and play any game he wants in. I don't know. I think it took too long to get made.
Well, it's one of those things of maybe it was made too soon because, as you were saying, Lord of the Rings, how long was that book out?
Well, there's no way to put that on the screen.
Yeah.
You had to wait for the technology to develop.
Exactly. And now that the technology is here, they're like, okay, well, this is a book that some people like, and clearly it was liked enough for people to write screenplays on it.
Yeah.
And so they was snapped up saying, someone was... It's a good screenplay.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I might be nitpicking several narrative choices... Mm-hmm. But the screenplay was probably very good.
Well, see, and I also I wanted to bring up some of you might be thinking, well, what about Harry Potter? That was a quick turnaround. Those were books and then films.
Oh yeah, that was
like they were cashing in quickly.
That was fun.
So you fell in love with the book, and then you can see that movie next summer.
Exactly, which is kind of bringing out the point. You got the books that are around for so long that parents are reading to their kids.
And same thing with the Narnia series.
Yeah,
the Chronicles of Narnia. Those books, C.S. Lewis wrote those things like 50 years ago.
Exactly.
Who cares about Prince Caspian anymore?
Yeah. So you got those films of parents reading to kids, parents reading to kids, parents reading to kids. Oh, look, here's a film. You then got Harry Potter, which is, wow, my kid's like really into reading now, reading all of these books. Here's a film before the series had even started.
Yes, exactly. Now you can see what was in your brain 2 months ago.
And then you got Ender's Game, which came out in, I think it was 85. I might be wrong about that. But it came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
So there's only been really 2 generations, if that could have read the book and read it to their kids if their kids were interested in sci-fi.
Yeah.
And then this film comes out on a book that is on a shelf in the bookstore down one of the many paperback trails or in the library down one of the many paperback trails.
Nothing to take away from Orson Scott Card. I think he's a great sci-fi writer, but he's not Asimov and he's not Clarke and he's not, these other huge names you think of in sci-fi.
Yeah, well maybe maybe 50 years down the line, he'll be seen as someone that was doing something really innovative with that style. And I must say, obviously, I'm really into the books. I'm reading and listening to all of the other books in that series, and I think this is going to go down as one of the best sci-fi saga type thing, like characters.
Yeah.
Like, Ender is a fascinating character, written really well, but not enough time has passed for enough people to have read it to their kids and then read it to their kids. And too much time has gone by from when it came out to the people that originally read it to really go and see the film. And, yeah, all of that. Like, they might not even have kids that are old enough to understand the film, so they can't take them. Mm-hmm. Either that, or the people that have read it have just had babies. So it's kind of came out in, I think, the wrong era. Maybe 10 years later. Although I can understand why it came out, and I'm glad it did. I enjoyed seeing this version of the story. I must say.
We want to talk about the conclusion real quickly before we get to ratings? Or?
Yeah, sure, definitely. And it's also a thing of I want to say. Actually, I can't right now because it'll be the very end. So let's go into this. So, what part of the conclusion did you want to start at then? Like the twist, or
just the final battle? Which,
okay.
I mean, as I said before, knowing that, like, one of the few things I retained from the novel
is
so I knew that the whole time. So I don't know, as someone that wasn't familiar with it, when you're supposed to pick up on that.
Okay, well, before we go into it, let's say,
or is there anyone that's shocked to find out that they've been fighting the whole time? Because if you're looking at your watch, it's like there's no time for the real battles anymore.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, it does get to that point in the film of. There has to be something
There's
here.
Training. When are they going to get to that stuff?
They're training. Well, we've got 20 minutes for a battle.
Yeah.
So for those of you that haven't seen the film, haven't read the book,
and
are still listening at this point, it turns out right at the end that Ender, going through all of these simulations, the training that he's been going through, has in fact...
I would say just in combat, or just in command...
Yes, just in the command school,
yeah.
where everyone's there and they're all going through, and it's like, yes, I will be commanding the apparent other team. Yeah, they're actually commanding the actual fleet that has actually been sent out, which, if you read the parallel book, Bean figures out, long before he gets to command school, that the fleet must have been sent.
Oh, yeah.
And in the book, when he's fighting, he realizes after the second battle that we're actually doing this.
So he just doesn't think that's important to bring up to anyone?
Well, the problem is, if he brings it up, he knows that if he just says,
he'll skew the result,
or
he could skew the result.
Everyone's going to stop fighting. Mm-hmm. And he's come to the realization that this is the only course available to him.
So he's in Graf's corner, essentially.
Kind of, yeah. He's smart enough to realize what's happening, and smart enough to realize that he can't stop it. Yeah. Like, if he stops it...
Well, yeah, I mean, the argument is, like, would you make those same decisions if you knew those lives were real?
Yeah.
If you weren't, like, he abandons the carriers, and it just goes all in on the
final attack.
The Petra's or whatever. What'd you call that thing? What was the
little doctor.
The little doctor, yes. Whatever. Yeah, so puts all of his eggs in that basket, and meanwhile these carriers are just defenseless and getting destroyed while thousands of lives are being lost.
Yeah.
And so would you make that decision knowing knowing that was the repercussion? So probably not.
And it is also something that they brought up in the film, which I don't remember being as strong in the book. I think in the book they focus more on the fact that the buggers, and that's a point. I understand that the word bugger isn't exactly the best word to use, but why did you get rid of that? At no point
were
are
they
called
buggers.
Buggers.
Okay, I just thought you were being extra Britishy.
No. Well, that's the thing. I can understand that maybe for the UK market, calling them Formics, but in the book they are referred to that once. Everything else, everyone that talks about them,
it's like the White Walkers and others. To go back to Game of Thrones, they're always the others in the books, and then they're White Walkers. And although they're referred to like once or twice as White Walkers, admittedly, but
Well, it was something that I was so shocked by that they actually did that.
Well, I mean, and having taken years and years of Latin, like I knew formic. I'm like, oh, they must look like ants because formic acid, and all this. So I was like. because I don't, like I said, I didn't remember the book.
But that's the thing.
Were they described as ant-like in the book?
Kind of. They're more insect-like. I think the idea would be...
Whereas an ant is...
Yeah. well, no, but I mean, like, the way that they're kind of described, and this is going to be a very random offshoot, the Bugalo in Futurama, kind of like that, but less fat, and...
All right, for the 0 people that can follow that train of thought.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, basically, not ant-like, bigger than ant, more sort of praying mantis style type thing.
Well, it was kind of like the visualization was a little bit between a praying mantis and an ant. It was like an ant head. With,
that was the thing, when you finally got to see the old Hive Queen, and that was definitely a Hive Queen, that wasn't the actual bugger that they were fighting. Yeah. That was what you got, and the actual fighting ones are supposed to be kind of like that, but just not as big. Like, the Hive Queen's supposed to be quite big. And of course they didn't show any of them other than that one. Like, it was really kind of odd, I thought, that decision. But then again, going back to what I was saying, the fact that they just went so fast paced and had to go through everything, obviously they had to change some things, and the fact that you didn't really see any of them. But changing the name that everybody calls them, I think, was a bit too far. Maybe even just for an American audience. Like, how many people over here are going to hear buggers and really know what that would mean in England? Like,
I don't know. But quickly, I think something we skipped over was the justification of this war.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't want to go too long into that. I know we have other things to get to, but I know you said you wanted to put a pin in that because it was different in the book or slightly different.
Kind of,
I mean, were we attacked? Did we have a preemptive strike in the book? Because obviously we are told in the film that we had to defend ourselves. They were going to colonize this planet, and we had to defend them, or defend our way of life, and as is every alien invasion movie, we have to send them back from whence they came.
Yeah. Well, the way that it's done in the book is that first one, yes, they turned up pretty much out of nowhere and kind of started attacking, and then we defended ourselves, and having to deal with that, discovering that this exists, and then carrying on from there. And obviously the army way of thinking is, okay, we're not going to wait for them to come to us, we're going to go out there. Now, in the book, they go into the fact that this is kind of the way that they communicate. They had no way of communicating with the humans, because they communicate entirely telepathically. The Hive Queen pretty much controls them all, and to the Hive Queen, every single soldier, in quotes, every single one that isn't a Hive Queen is expendable, because they're not individuals. So what the Hive Queen was trying to do, at least in the book, is get to Earth, maybe have like a little colony going, but the overall thing was not to take over. It was just to try and communicate in the end. But obviously in the film, they can't go into that. There was no time. So it was, we were attacked, we protected ourselves, now we're going to go kill them. That was the only thing you got from that. Which, I think that was actually an important thing that should have been in the film, is that at one point you realise they're trying to communicate, but they can't. Maybe I'm getting more into the second book, where Ender really lays it out to people.
I just thought that was an important distinction. Because if they are assholes, then kill them. But, that's kind of the end of the film. You're like, okay, wow, we might be wrong here. Ender was the asshole. And, a puppet, but, he was used as, a puppet, but still he did the things. He was the one that commanded the fleet and one that wiped out almost an entire species.
That was a thing that I liked, although it was another narrative needing to be shortened. In the book, what happens is obviously there's fight within factions on who should get the kids, who shouldn't. Once that is won, Valentine comes out, and Valentine and Ender go off. They go off to another world. They go off to one world, and then Ender finds the Hive Queen egg. Whereas in this, it's 2 days after the battle, he walks outside and finds the Hive Queen egg. It's a bit of a real quick cheat, as it were. Of like, we need to finish this film now. Like, everyone's been sitting around, we've done the battle. We don't have time for us to explain, he's gone off on this colonizing ship, and now he's found them. They're coming at it from a film study standpoint of understanding how narrative works and how you can never get the whole of a book into a film. I can see exactly why they did it. I can understand exactly why they did it. But coming from someone that liked the book so much, I would say you should have just made the film a bit longer. I think people could have dealt with that. You can deal with Lord of the Rings.
We don't know whose decision that was. Maybe maybe Hood wanted it to be 2:30, but the studio's like, no one's going to go see 2.5. So you never know whose creative decision that was.
Yeah, it's one of those things of obviously we're coming at it from. We've seen the film, so all the decisions have already been made.
Exactly. Yeah.
We
don't know who defended what decision and who made what decision.
Yeah. Well, the only other thing then, coming away from the ending, that I wanted to point out, which was a major thing that happened in the book that they didn't even really touch on. I mean, they did, but they didn't go into that much detail. In the book, you find out that the two kids that Ender fought with, the one at the school right at the beginning before he even gets to the station, and then the kid who fights him in the shower and ends up hitting his head, having to be on the machine. Mm-hmm. You find out on the interaction between the two higher-ups at the beginning of the book that Ender, in fact, killed both of those kids.
Pretty different. Yeah.
And the idea is that not only did he kill them, but they were dead before help arrived.
They died in front of Ender, pretty much.
Ender killed them there and then, but he didn't realize. Mm-hmm. And the idea in the book, the second that guy hits his head, 2 seconds later, a teacher comes around the corner. Like, people turn up, they clear the area, Ender's taken away. So all he sees is that kid hit his head and not move. He's then later told that the guy's been sent home. And then,
in a body bag.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they say, he's been sent home. He gets told by someone else that it's been announced that he's on a plane to his hometown. Uh-huh. Like, that's what's going on. And then you see the conversation between the higher ups that, I'm talking about Ender. Like, he killed those kids, And like it's thrown out like that, and you realize, okay, he's actually killed now, but he's unaware of it, and it's important to make sure that he's not aware of it.
Exactly,
because he said, if he finds out that these kids are dead, everything we've done is for nothing. And so it's in the film. Obviously, Ender's the one that says he's going to die, isn't he? And they kind of gloss over it with, no, we're fixing him up, we're sending him home. Yeah. And of course, the kid in the school, nothing's ever mentioned, period. All that's mentioned is that he defended himself. Okay. So you don't get any of that. But I am definitely going to try and come at this film when I'm going to give my rating, which will happen fairly shortly, I'm sure. I'm going to try and come at this as the film done by itself, and not necessarily the guy who is.
I know, you keep saying in the book. You can play a drinking game with this one, in the book. Drink! In the book. No, I'm really screwing with you. All right. So, shall we rate?
I think we shall.
All right. I don't know who is up. I'll go ahead and take a stab.
All right, you go first. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. I think all of the action sequences, I think, looked amazing. I thought they were very well done. Even the stuff in the 0G looked really good.
No, yeah.
And they actually did some training in 0G, so like the kids would know how to move, or it would.
Yeah, I am kind of sorry that we didn't spend a little bit more time talking about that. I know we have our own time limits as well.
Yeah,
but those bits very good.
And then even all of the computer stuff, meaning generated images. Yeah, not the mind game essentially, but I think all that just looked incredible. As I stated, the adult acting I thought was a little flat, with a few exceptions. Nonzo. Meanwhile, I love Nonzo. And, like I said, I loved Harrison Ford and Ben Kingsley and stuff, but the child acting was where it really was for me. I thought it was superb child acting.
It kind of had to be.
Because they carry this piece needs them, to carry it. But yeah, Asa Butterfield and Haley Steinfeld and Abigail Breslin, all of them I just thought were absolutely incredible, and look forward to see what else they do. That being said, the film still felt a little flat for me.
Right.
I can see where it's doing like between 59 and 60. It's right on that fresh rotten barrier right now, I think. So long story short, I'm giving this a minus 3.5.
I can see that.
I think that's fair. I don't know if it's going to have a lot of replay value for me. It's one of those things, it depends on the specials, on the bonus features. If you throw a commentary in there, I'm always a sucker for a director's commentary. But I enjoyed it. It's just, like I said, I think more could have been done. Right. And like to your point, with the longer film, especially with the source material, too much. Even like I said, I don't remember it, but
too much for taking that.
Learning this, I'm learning that there was a lot lost, but minus 3.5 for me.
Alright, well, I will say, starting off that, yes, the special features for me, I would love to see a director's commentary of the director, the screenwriter, and Orson Scott Card together discussing. And
I'd like to see one with all the kids, too. Hear one, I guess.
Yes, and I'm sure it'll be slightly more informative than the kid commentary of School of Rock.
Please.
I listened to that solely because I ended up with the DVD somehow, and I had time to kill, and I thought, you know what, this might be interesting to see a kid's perspective of the film. Not really.
No, okay. Yes.
But yes, and so with this film, I'm attempting to take all of my bias out of having loved the book after waiting so long to read it, and just go based on the critiques I've had of it as a film in general, which for me, one of the biggest was pacing. It was clear, even without having read the book, it was clear that they were rushing through a lot of it. And as I kept saying, definitely a longer film would have allayed most of that. And the characters, as you were saying earlier, there was so little development of any character other than Ender that it was a little flat that way. Having said that, before I get the actual rating, the film itself was fairly good. There wasn't really too many bad parts to it. And as you were saying, the zero-G stuff I thought was some of the best zero-G stuff I've seen outside of Gravity. The way that they were doing that with all of the floating around and being able to give some of the
very
physics.
Odd title, Gravity, because there's very little gravity in Gravity.
Maybe it's just trying to be a meta film.
There's been anti-gravity, yes.
Oh, that could be an interesting sequel. Anti-gravity set on Earth.
It'll be set from Ed Harris's view.
Like
being under shadow of the anti-gravity.
Where
there is gravity.
Yes,
on Earth.
exactly.
Yes. All right. Get working on that, Screenwriters of Hollywood. All right.
But, it had so many good points. I just felt that the execution of some of the stuff, mostly the pacing, kind of fell a little flat. So despite how much I enjoyed the film as an experience, the actual film itself I'm giving a rating of -3.
Alright, so enjoyed it a little more.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it more than a -3 myself, but actually critiquing the film, -3 for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have something to recommend to the folks quickly?
I do indeed. This one is another Hulu Plus one, and it is an anime. So I'm sure half of the people listening have decided not to bother with this one. It's called Attack on Titan, which when I first saw it, it was basically you saw an image of a giant face and a guy holding 2 swords looking at this face. And I thought, well, that could be interesting. I watched it and I found it very interesting. Mm-hmm. And it's humanity is walled off against these giant things that the only reason they exist is to eat humans. And most of the film is trying to figure out a way of fighting them and or understanding them. Mm. And so, based on that, you get some really interesting scenarios on top of a few twists here and there that kind of turn the story on its head. Plus the added bonus that it was based entirely on a manga that isn't finished yet. And there will be more. So now I'm actually at a point of watching something on Hulu Plus, but having the TV side of it, I have to wait till next fall to find the next thing.
For you.
So yeah, I would heartily recommend Attack on Titan, even for those that aren't really into anime. It really is such a great story that I think you'll be able to get over that.
Fair enough. All right, I have a VOD recommendation since I haven't been watching Netflix recently. But this one has been out for quite a while now, and it's been recommended to me by a couple of friends. But the film is called Mud. It's I don't know if you want to throw the indie label on it. I mean, when you have that many stars in it, it's kind of hard to throw the indie label on things.
Well, it always depends on how it comes out, I think.
Yeah, but it's newsflash. I like Matthew McConaughey now, at least in this film.
Right.
I would say, not his 900 other.
I was like, you can always have one.
Yeah,
there's always the one.
Yeah, I like what's his nuts and buried. Yeah, great ending, by the way.
Yeah.
No spoilers there.
I know the thing
Ryan
is
Reynolds,
to really trash on Ryan Reynolds. I don't think he's that bad. I think he's fallen into the stereotype, unfortunately, of rom-com thing.
Yeah, but also Reese Witherspoon, who is another person on my hate list. But I still think she's a terrible person, but not a bad actress.
Fair enough. You don't have to be one to be the other.
I mean, Walk the Line was the first thing I really enjoyed her in, and then she was great in this. And even Michael Shannon, who's, I would say, one of my favorite actors currently.
Right.
You never know when these things are released, but he was, just a very small role in this. But I'm like, is that Mike Shannon? I think, is that Zod?
That Ding Ding?
Yeah. That's Zod? Yeah, but it was Zod. All right.
That would have been cool.
But it's a great story, and just check it out. Rent it on. You can get it on Redbox right now, VOD. I'm sure the second you get it on VOD, it'll be on Netflix the next day. So you might wait for a minute.
Me and Jamie really want to see it, but we know it'll be on Netflix, so we're willing to.
Highly recommended. I think Sam Elliott's in there. The kids are wonderful in it. Just check it out. It's a really cool story. So yeah. I just don't want to go into it too much because it'll give anything away. But
you don't want to do.
Yep, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I think
I'm tired of hearing myself.
Well, what do you think? I edit this thing. I have to listen to us all the time.
Why do you think I'm tired? Just one time. All right. So yeah, have fun with that, Paul.
All right. Well, I think that's all for me.
That's all for me.
All right. Bye, folks.
See ya.